A logging experience gone wrong. I apologize if I mess up any details about this story, but it's something my best friend told me years ago. It's so unsettling that it's stuck with me, even after hearing it more than once. My friend's dad was a logger, specifically a tree saw operator, and he spent long, grueling hours alone in the deep forests of the Pacific Northwest. His job was to cut down trees quickly, and he was paid based on the number of trees he felled, not the hours worked, which often meant working 16 to 20-hour days. He worked alone about half the time, but the other half he worked with Griffin, another tree saw operator. One day, they were assigned to a remote job site high up on a mountain, so remote that it took 3 weeks just to clear a road wide enough for their trucks. They had been working for 10 days when strange chatter started coming through their radios. At first, the voices were faint, distorted murmurs. No matter what they did, the chatter followed them as they tried changing channels. As they ventured farther up the mountain, the voices became more distinct. The conversation was muffled and unintelligible, but the tone felt off, casual at times, but with unsettling content. They also started finding strange signs of human presence, containers, footprints, and makeshift campsites. These were in an area no one should have been. One day, Griffin discovered a tent off the trail. Inside, they found disturbing items: children's underwear, duct tape, rope, and crude sketches of children. There were even photos of a fresh apple, suggesting someone had been there recently. Griffin wanted to leave immediately, but my friend's dad insisted they finish the job. They decided to limit radio communication to emergencies only. That night, the radio crackled again, and they could hear snippets of a conversation between two men talking about mundane things, collecting water, gathering firewood. But the realization that these men were likely connected to the tent made my friend's dad uneasy. Griffin wasn't as fazed, but the dread was building up in my friend's dad. The next night, he confronted the men, demanding to know who they were and what they were doing there. The radio went silent. The silence was more unnerving than the chatter. Griffin didn't like that my friend's dad had announced their presence, but they decided to escalate the situation the next day. Around midnight, Griffin woke him, whispering that someone was outside the camper. They heard footsteps crunching on the gravel. My friend's dad fumbled for his gun, only to realize it wasn't loaded. Griffin had no weapon either, and calling the police wasn't an option due to their remote location. Then, they heard the camper door handle jiggle, and the door creaked open, but didn't swing fully inward. The camper was high off the ground with no ladder or stool to climb. Then came the scratching, long, deliberate scratches along the door. Minutes passed before my friend's dad decided to check it out. He reached the door, and it burst open. He was struck across the face with a knife. The pain was blinding as he fell to the ground. A man was on top of him, pressing the knife to his neck. Another man appeared, kicking him repeatedly in the head. Griffin, without hesitation, tackled the man with the knife, and the second man bolted into the darkness. Griffin helped my friend's dad back into the camper, and they drove 2 hours to the nearest hospital. His face was a bloody mess, and a deep cut across his eye permanently damaged his vision. They reported the attack, but nothing came of it. 2 weeks later, one of their co-workers was found bound, gagged, raped, and murdered in a ditch. No arrests were ever made. To this day, my friend's dad struggles with PTSD. His right eye, with its disfigured pupil, serves as a constant reminder of that night. It's been years, and I can't help but feel terrified of the deep woods because of what he went through. I haven't heard from him or my friend in years, so I can only hope he's doing okay.